Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Will to Live Initiative podcast, a new podcast where I investigate ongoing, unlawful, non-consensual experimentation on innocent men and women in the U.S. and possibly abroad. I am one of those people victimized by this atrocity, and now I am working hard to restore justice by sharing evidence and information in hopes of prompting a proper investigation. Join me in my fight and help raise awareness by tuning in and sharing this podcast with your family and friends. What's happening in this video here? I'll explain that later. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about me so you can have a basic idea of who I am in my life up until now. And I've lived a rather simple, uncomplicated life, at least by my standards. I was born in Chicago in 1973. We moved to Louisiana when I was 4. When I say we, I mean my mother and my 3 brothers. And that's where I grew up, a small town named Columbia. Population 7, 3 of which are stray cats. No, but it's a typical country southern town. More dirt roads than paved roads. Not a lot of stoplights. Local businesses, at least at the time that I was growing up there. Our family was a typical black southern family. The grandmother was the nucleus of everything and pretty much ran everything. And as kids, we, rode bikes and walked around country dirt roads barefoot, picked berries and stuff off of trees. We thought it was boring at the time, because we didn't think there were a lot to do, but we made our own fun, which when we look back at it was probably the best fun because we were forced to use our imaginations and to think and get outdoors and, play around in nature. So, that was actually a good upbringing when we think about it. Now, Columbia is where most of my family is from, my immediate family. And that's actually where my mother and my father grew up also. And that's a typical story there. Father not around, single mother, with the support of my grandmother and family, of course, helped raise us, and same with her siblings and their children that were at least located in town. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. 2 of my older brothers passed away at young ages for different due to different health-related issues. And those events helped kind of shape who I am and what our family became. Not in the sense that it was so traumatic we just went off the rails, but that grief of losing a sibling, that really shapes your life, especially at a young age, very young age, and you really don't have a lot of understanding. So it gives you a different perspective on life. Fast forward to graduating high school and going to college. I attended and graduated from Central State University, which is located in another small town named Wilberforce, Ohio. It's a small, historically black college or university tucked in the cornfields. And it's funny because I had never seen the campus before. During that time, there was no internet to pull up pictures and videos, and see, student life and to see the campus, no online campus tours, none of that. The only images I saw of the campus were of, select spots in the brochure that they send you, So you see those and you think, okay, and you see a couple students here and there, all posing and smiling, looking all cheesy. And you think, oh, okay, that's nice. Now, being from the country, I'm thinking everything up north is all city, just big buildings and traffic, people breakdancing on subways, but I didn't get that. No, I didn't see the school until we drove through 1,500 miles of cornfield to get to this small, good times looking campus in what felt like the middle of nowhere. But once I touched down, I was hooked. And those were the four of the greatest years of my life spent on that Good Times Cornfield campus, where my time was consumed by two things: band and books. If you know anything about black college bands, they take up a great deal of your time. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And of course, the books was the main focus. Not much partying, just band and books. And I studied really hard, because, that was important to me. It was important to me. I like learning things, but getting my degree and getting out on time was important to me. And I made a lot of good friendships during that time, and most of those people were also, band members, with the exception of a couple people who were, just what I would call regular students, I guess. But made some good friendships that lasted up to this day. Fast forward to graduating from college, which I did on time. And now my major was radio, television, communications. So when I graduated, I was able to get a job at a small mid-market TV station in Dayton, Ohio. And I worked in television news, did that for a couple of years, and hated it, which that wasn't really ever my goal in the first place, but you graduate from college and you figure I got to get this job in my field, and hadn't really started pursuing what I wanted. And then when I figured, okay, it's time for me to do what I want to do, I left and moved to Dallas, Texas. I loved Dallas, still do. And while I was there, I worked, simple jobs, call centers, admin jobs, always office gigs. Met some good people. In fact, that's where I met two guys who I consider to be brothers to this day. I mean, in a very real sense of, what I consider a brother to be. Now, it was during this time living in Dallas that I really started to dive into more spiritual and philosophical studies. Reading about philosophies and religions of different cultures, not looking for something to believe in or for something to follow, but for understanding. That's always been the underlying theme of my life, which started as a kid, where I always wanted to gain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Something that I learned growing up. You read about in the Bible, especially in Proverbs, where it talks about, that should be a life goal, is to gain those three things. And I wanted to understand that, to know and understand myself, my own soul, my own mind, the mind of God, if that's even possible, and how that all connects. How can I improve my thinking and how I deal with people in life situations? So studying all these different philosophies really helped me to do that. And that's a process that never ends. You never get to a place where you understand it all or know it all. It takes a lifetime to master the self, because you're still growing, or you should be. We seem to think that life is childhood, adult, old age, die, heaven or hell. That when you're grown, you already know what to do and how to be. We use simple principles to govern our entire lives without making adjustments for ever-changing times and circumstances. Everything must fit into our mindset, and we get frustrated when that doesn't happen. And this is why it's important to always strive to gain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to help deal with life's ever-changing circumstances. Anyway, I bounced back and forth between Dallas and Louisiana a couple of times, still doing the whole call center customer service work, until I got into IT, which I kind of fell into. I learned how to fix computers on my own because I didn't want to pay the ridiculous prices that computer repair shops would charge to fix your computer. So a company I was working for at the time asked me to help out with, some inventory project with their computers. And I wound up fixing a problem on one of the computers. And so this turned into me helping out with more computer-related issues and projects. And then that turned into me becoming the head IT guy for that building. And so after that, IT became, sort of a career path. And I never took a computer class, not one, except for once in high school, way back in the day, when playing Oregon Trail on a black and green monitor was the advanced video game of the day. But other than that, not a single class. And I worked in that field for a good number of years. In 2010, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where again I worked, some IT gigs, Made a few friends here and there. Same as anywhere I go, usually any city that I move to, I manage to meet a lot of people, and have a few decent friendships that tend to last longer than the others, because some people you lose touch with, or some people you realize are just really not worth the time. And then there are other people who they just stick with you, they just stick with you, and it's an organic thing that, you enjoy each other's company, you have the same ideals or the same sense of humor. So, same thing in Atlanta, where also I had a lot of friends there who I knew from college or from other places, and even a couple of relatives that were there. So again, I did all these different IT jobs up until 2015, when I had just decided, you know what, I've had enough. I've had enough of working jobs that I hated, or that I didn't like, or that just weren't fulfilling. For years, I worked these jobs because they were easy for me. And of course, you needed a job. But I didn't like these jobs because there were other things that I wanted. Wanted to work for myself, doing something more creative, something more fulfilling, and something that I enjoyed. I had different business ideas, some good, some not so much, but I was always willing to try. Always willing to try. In 2015, I promised myself that I was going to try, and I was going to make something work. Come what may, come hell or high water, I was going to make something work. And so I left my job and started to pursue these different ideas that I had. And it was rough for a good while, but I kept working at it, developing the idea and building it, until slowly but surely things started to take shape. Now, the business was a graphic design business that focused on customized phone cases and phone skins. And this morphed into doing three-dimensional design work, 3D designs. And I put a lot of time and effort into developing this business, building my own websites, studying sales and marketing, graphic design, photography, things that I had been dabbling in over the years. But this time I was far more focused, mainly because I did away with the safety net job in order to do it full time. And I was able to pull that off because around 2016, I was living with an uncle in the small military town named Warner Robins, Georgia. And it's important that you remember the name of that town. Now, it was there, living with my uncle, that I had the space and the freedom to focus on my business. Plus I also started to pick up my sticks again and start practicing music. I was a drummer. In case I didn't mention that before, I played the drums quite well, I might add. So I started practicing again, and things were good, or so I thought. What I had not realized at the time was that something was coming. Something was happening. Someone was plotting. And 2018 is when they decided to strike. Strange things started to happen. And that brings us back to the video we looked at the beginning. Around August or September of 2018, the guy you see in this video here moved into the apartment directly above my uncle's, where I was staying at the time. And he started doing things like you see in this video. What he would do is he would come out of his apartment and run down the stairs really fast and hard. And he would start looking around as though he were pretending to be looking for something. And he would look up and take quick glances into the window. Now, at that window, you see there's a balcony, and there's a dining room right there, which had a table. And I would always sit at that table to use the computer, because I was always working on my business just pretty much all day. So I would have my computer there. So we didn't have a couch in the living room where I slept, and there was a bed in there, which was an air mattress. So I would sit at the table because I was more comfortable. And you can see directly outside from that table, through the balcony window. So he would come, rush down the stairs just really hard, and just start looking around as though he's looking for something. And he would do this every day, sometimes even twice a day, until I started recording it, because it was obvious it was being done to annoy me for whatever reason. And I didn't know this guy. I had never seen him before, didn't know anything about him, and I didn't really make a lot of noise, so it couldn't be, some sort of payback for, noise I was making or anything like that. So once I started recording, he stopped. And that's important to remember. When I started recording that, he stopped. But he wasn't done. He started doing other things. And not just him, other people started behaving strangely. And some of the people that I knew started behaving differently. And it was just the strangest thing. And it was a chain of events was starting that I didn't see coming. And by the time I started figuring things out, these acts escalated into something so unbelievable, so sinister, that had I not experienced it, I too would have a hard time believing it. Now, next time, we will explore this neighbor and other events that started happening that were all intentionally designed to slowly and methodically change my life, and not for the better. This is where you, the listener, must start to think. Put on your investigative hats. These are the things that they don't want you to see, what they don't want you to know. But this is what you need to know. Because today, it's me. Tomorrow, it could be you, your family, your friends, and your children. They could be next. Because experiments start with small sample sizes of the larger population. The subject matter is meant for. So it is important that you hear and do your best to understand. Well, this concludes this episode of the Will to Live podcast. I hope that you will join me next time and follow along as I work to end this torture for myself and others who may be suffering. Please sign the petition at change.org/will to live. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at Will to Live US. That's WILLTOUS. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications for alerts when I publish new episodes. Please share this as well as the petition with your friends and family on your social media or through text, by email, or just have discussions about what I've discussed. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to answer them. In the meantime, keep praying and standing up for human rights. I'm Will, and I'm out.